What's up, it's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. Why did that sound so weird? I was like,
what's up?
What's up, it's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be my February wrap up. Alright, hello! We're back at it again with the reread, rewrite, burn format for my wrap-ups. Of course, it's been 3 years, I think, since I started doing this. It was January of 2021, I want to say, that I started doing reread, rewrite, burn. That's crazy. So if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, basically I do a recap of my month with all the stats and whatever else, and then I put all my titles that I read on little slips of paper in this skull, and I pick out 3 at a time, and I would say whether I would reread, rewrite, or burn the book. This is just a way more fun way for me to film my wrap-ups because I am not one to be entertained by myself talking about book by book in the normal way. So we're just gonna go right on into it because I basically read a book a day. I read 29 books in 29 days of February. Happy leap year, everybody. Also on leap day, fun fact, is Cheetos Gotcha Day. So that was fun. Oh wait, no, that's March. Sorry. Okay, all is well. Wow, I actually counted up my physical pages this month too. Okay, so like I said, I read 29 books, which is really good. And then I only count my physical pages because my goal is to read at least 100 physical pages a day. If you're new here, I do read audiobooks as well. I just don't feel like calculating my percentages to pages every single day. You know what I mean? I wish audiobooks did it by page number somehow as well, but alas. So physical pages, I read 6,428. I read 15 BIPOC authors out of the 29, which is really fucking good. That is more than half, if you were unaware. My best book of the month. It was actually kind of difficult to choose between a few because it wasn't like, well, okay, I was gonna say it wasn't like a strong 5-star, but it was by the end. It just wasn't, like, it took me a while to read this. Natural Beauty by Ling Huang, because I really enjoyed the twist of this one. This is more of like a literary horror. It was also a Goodreads nominee for Best Horror of 2023, so that's cool. And it was on my, was it on my 24 for 2024? So I was able to check it off right away, so that was another accomplishment. This is a story following a woman in 2 different timelines of her life, one being a young piano prodigy, and then the author utilizes that piano talent to like connect to her adult life, where we follow her working for this creepy, eerie beauty and wellness facility called Holistic. Her parents are also going through things because they got in an accident, and so she's trying to take care of them at this other facility. All of that connects at the end. There are topics of grief, so trigger warnings for that, and like death of a parent and everything. Basically, if you saw my vlog, you know that I said that this is commentary on capitalism. Rich people just making profit by any means necessary, regardless of ethics, regardless of just humanity, conscience, fucking kindness. It's about profit. It's about testing without consent. It's about beauty standards and the desire to always feel youthful and look youthful. And it also discusses Asian beauty standards versus American beauty standards. And if you didn't know, hello, I'm Asian, I'm Filipino. This isn't a Filipino author or Filipino characters by any means, but I have read some relatable things in this to my personal culture and how I grew up and my parents' values and things like that. So that is Natural Beauty. I gave it 5 stars. It was the best of the month. It was a little bit tied with a couple others, but I'll talk about that later. My worst book of the month. Usually I don't own my worst book of the month because it's usually like an audiobook or something I got from the library, because I'm not, as much as I listen to audiobooks like during my drives and during work and everything, I don't get immersed in audiobooks most of the time. There are some exceptions, but anyway, I own it physically, but I did listen to it on audio because it was hiding. You saw my Kayla vlog, my reading Kayla's worst books. This was hiding throughout the entire vlog, and then I found it right before I filmed the last clip of that vlog. I've had this. I'm gonna get rid of it. It was so cool. It like came in this like book slip thing too, but alas, worst book of the month. It had nothing going for it. I should have just listened to everyone who told me that I wouldn't like this, that they didn't like this, one of their worst books of all time. I should have known too, because I'm not like an amusement park, carnival setting type of reader. And based on the Ferris wheel on the cover, you can immediately tell that that's what this is. But basically there are these, I think 9 people, I don't even know, this group of people who enter this game of fatal hide and seek in this amaze park. You meet all of them. First of all, they're all just annoying ass people, insufferable, if you will. And then you just learn about the game. They don't even like try to actually survive the game until like 40% through. And it's just awful writing. Again, I'll just link that vlog down below because I'm just gonna say the same exact things that I said in that vlog because nothing's changed. Moving on. I try to read one nonfiction a book. What? I try to read one nonfiction book a month, and I successfully did that all throughout 2023, so I decided to continue that goal. And my nonfiction this month, I read via audio, and that was Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, I believe. I'm sorry if I butchered that. I've heard it said a couple different ways, but it was really fucking good. 5 stars. The audiobook was phenomenal. I believe it was narrated by the author. It just talked about their experience being Black in America. I read it right at the beginning of the month, so I can't really remember any specifics. I just remember the feeling that I had listening to it and how like inspiring and just powerful the author's voice was, the words that they wrote. I remember there was a section about how school didn't really teach them anything. It was their time spent at libraries and reading books on their own time where they learned the most about life. So yeah, highly recommend. It's a super short audiobook. It's a good one. Buzzword for Kayla's Buzzwordathon, which is an annual reading challenge where you read a word that she assigns per month. You just have to make sure it's in the title of the book. It was a category for February and it was positive words. One of the example words she used was happy. So I just rolled with that and listened to The Happy Couple by the author of Exciting Times. He's an Irish author. So like I said in my vlog as well, I think I finished it I think it was Jante's Inferno. I love like the dry, blunt Irish humor. That's like one of my favorite types of humor. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. The audiobook was all right. I probably would have enjoyed it more if I read it physically though, because there were times where it was like a play almost, where it was like character, dialogue, character, dialogue, character, dialogue. So I was just like, this is not pleasant to my ears. It's basically about this messy couple who goes to a wedding and there were exes at this wedding and exes in their discussions, conversations with each other about whether or not they should get married. I would recommend this for fans of normal people or Sally Rooney in general, for sure. I also try to utilize my Kindle as much as possible, whether that be for NetGalley arcs or ebooks from Libby or my unmuted and unhinged sprints with Joey, which is where we go live on my Patreon. We're called The Lair, we're vampire themed, always linked down below, but one of the perks for all tiers is our unmuted and unhinged sprints where we read an unhinged book, so extreme horror novellas, or sometimes it's just horror novellas in general, but we read them in one sitting and we stay unmuted, unlike regular sprints where people mute themselves and then we have like ambiance. We still have ambiance, but we ourselves are unmuted so everyone can hear our visceral reactions to the depravity of extreme horror novellas. So I usually try to pick ones that are available on Kindle Unlimited so I could use my Kindle and so it's accessible for others as well. If they have Kindle Unlimited, they don't have to spend extra money or whatever. Anyway, we read Run Red by RJ Daly. I usually buy Joey his own physical copy because he doesn't have a Kindle, so we do it that way, and then I have something to hold up during my wrap-ups. Look at this creepy cover. Look at her. She is suffering. There's dental horror. There's a lot of sex. It felt like I was reading a really bad smutty romance in the beginning, to be honest. There's a priest involved, but they could have done a lot more with him. There's a bottle opener involved. The internet's involved. That's all I'm gonna say about this little thing. I actually gave this 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars. Christina from Christina's Chapters actually joined us this time, and she does not read even like general horror, let alone extreme horror, so that was a fun time. I think she gave it a 2, and then Joey gave it a 3 or 4, I can't remember. I also read The Marionettes by Katie Wismer on my Kindle. That was also one of the worst books I read this month, actually. I gave The Marionettes 2 stars. This witch goes to this academy, and then you're paired with vampires. She's paired with like the hottest vampire in all the land. That's where the romance comes in and the fantasy romance aspect. And I just didn't like the dialogue. None of the characters stood out to me. Their conversations, some of them really felt forced, like the humor was weird. There were a couple twists. There was this one thing with a snake that wasn't fully fleshed out, but at the time I was like, oh. And then the ending. The ending was good, I will admit. And it was a cliffhanger, but I was not invested enough to pick up a sequel whenever that comes out. If it's out, I don't know. I don't care. It was not my favorite vampire book whatsoever. But I was able to check off a 12 Rex by 12 Vamps book off that project list. So that was an accomplishment. So if nothing else, there was that. I have a loose goal of trying to read more chunky books and being less intimidated by them this year. So I am actually trying to read at least one one 500 plus page book every month, and I read 3 this month. So that's awesome. I thought I only read 2. I forgot about Delicious Monsters. I read these 3 chonkers that were over 500 pages. The Final Strife by Sarah L. Arifi, who is the author of Feybound, which is going to be on my top 10 of 2024. This, however, I gave a 3-star, but at the same time, I bought the second book. So I will be reading the sequel, and then the third one comes out later on this year. I enjoyed it. It just, for how long it was, I thought I would be more gripped. I thought I would be more obsessed with it, but alas. I really appreciate the magic system reflecting like class. So in this world, class is, I guess, measured by the color of their blood. We have the Embers who have red blood, and they're the like elite top high class, and then we have the middle working class. What are they called? I think it starts with a D. It says blue is the blood of the poor, of workers, of the resistant. And then we have the, I think it's the ghosters or the ghostings. I made this mistake in my vlog as well. I read this when Christina visited, so I will link that vlog down below as well. That was a fun bookish weekend. The ghostings or whatever, who have clear blood, and clear is the blood of the slaves, of the crushed, of the invisible. Our main character, Scylla, is in the middle class, and we follow her story, and there are these trials. There's a lot going on, but also there was a lot of nothing going on in this as well. But I still think it's worth the read. However, I will say that you can definitely tell that Sarah L. Arifi's writing has evolved if you read Feybound at any point. I think if I read this first, I might have given it 4 stars. But now that I know she can write the way she wrote in Feybound, it's remaining a 3. And then we have The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig, which I gave 4 stars and I read in my Kayla vlog. So I'm not gonna say too much about this. I just wish it stayed horror through and through, like I said in my vlog, but you can get my in-depth thoughts through that vlog. And then Delicious Monsters by LaSalle Sambury, I read for my Patreon buddy read for February. We had a discussion this previous Sunday, March 3rd, via Discord, and we just like video chat and talk about the book, talk about life, whatever. It's super chill, not structured whatsoever, but this is like a haunted house thriller horror, and it was good. I think I gave this 4 stars. It was a low 4, and then we discussed it, and I was like, you know, I think I liked it more than I thought. It's just, I didn't like one of the POVs. It's dual POV, and like this could have been a lot shorter if we were just following Daisy as opposed to Brittany as well. I just feel like Brittany was utilized for information, just to get information, because she was investigating for her little YouTube show with her best friend Jaden, and they were just investigating this family, this mother and daughter, and their story about weird shit at this house that they inherited, and there may or may not be some supernatural elements throughout this as well. But basically the overall theme was to remember forgotten Black girls, so I appreciated that. I think that overarching theme tied into the story really well. I just feel like there were some things that, again, could have been a lot more fleshed out, could have been explained. There's definitely body horror in this, so if you enjoy that, there you go. If you like maggots involved, there you go. They have like butcher birds, which apparently are birds that like impale their prey on branches, so there's a fun fact for you. And if you like plants, I feel like you'd like this too, because our main character Daisy loves plants, and there's also no romance in this, which I was surprised by. So yeah, overall 4 stars. It is YA horror, so it's always easy for me to be like, it could have done more with the gore. Look at me rhyming. But with the gore and all that stuff, but again, I just had to keep reminding myself that it is YA horror. So moving on. I did not read a classic, which is a loose goal anyway. Book of the month, I try to read 1 a month. I'm about to talk about all these books in just the recap. Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. I gave this 2 stars. I read this during my Lair exclusive readathon, so you wouldn't be able to see that vlog unless you're in the Patreon, so I guess I'll say my thoughts. I don't know. I don't think I have thoughts. It's a sapphic romance. Didn't really care for the romance, to be honest. The storyline, surprisingly, that I cared about was one involving a little brother, and I'm an only child, so I usually don't connect with sibling stories too often, but this one did it for me. But I still gave it 2 stars. I just wanted it to be over. The audiobook was okay, but I was just zoned out a lot of the time. I'm unhauling this. It'll be on my Pango, so if you're interested, it'll be there. And then lastly, I try to read an arc every month, and this month, technically it wasn't an arc I got on like NetGalley or anything. I made this goal specifically to up my NetGalley score, but then again, if I get like physical arcs too, that counts. Technically, this is a finished copy that I bought myself from Barnes, but I got it 2 weeks early because Barnes did their thing and put it out 2 weeks early. About A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. This is the author of We Hunt the Flame, which is actually my Patreon buddy read for this month, for March. March. So I'm excited to read more of her writing because this is my first book by her. And I gave this a 4-star. Ironically, the least exciting part of this for me was the heist itself, and this is pitched as a heist with vampires. This is pitched as if you like Six of Crows because of the heist, you'll like this book. I still think that's true because I did like Six of Crows as well, but this was definitely better. But the heist, that's when I checked out the most, but everything else, there's social commentary about racism and misogyny, and just like the character growth as well was really, I don't know why I wanted to say impressive, I guess that works too, but there were a lot of really good quotes throughout this whole book. I liked the characters, even the side characters. The vampire aspect is great. There's a tea house that they're trying to save, and it's a tea house by day, a blood lounge, blood house, whatever, by night, where the vampires just lounge around, and it's super cute, super like speakeasy type of vibes. Highly recommend if you haven't checked this out yet, but that's like the only advanced copy I got to. I did start another book called The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim, but I finished that on March 1st, so that'll be on my March wrap up. I was desperate, so I'm counting that. Sue me. All right, that was the longest wrap up of my life because I've never read 3 500+ page books, and there were multiple for a couple categories. So anyway, moving on to the actual wrap up. I am so sorry. All right, I need water. Oh no. Wow, I grabbed like 17. Okay, so we've got Run Red by RJ Daly. Moon of the Crusted Snow. I read that audibly. And then we have The Book of Accidents. I would reread this. I'm keeping this on my shelves and not unhauling it. So I would actually reread this. I mean, obviously it's long, so I just want to see the things I might have missed, you know? I tabbed a bunch. It had moments of really good writing and the chapters are short, so I had a fun time reading this. So yeah, would reread that. Would rewrite this to utilize the priest more. Like, come on. That was an opening. That was a missed opportunity for fucking sure. And then burn Moon of the Crusted Snow. I'm sorry, I know this is a beloved book, but I just found it boring. I listened to it on Libby, so maybe part of that is the audiobook's fault, but I mean, there were a couple times where there was some gore, but post-apocalyptic books I've come to realize are not for me. So I will not be reading the sequel. I know that just recently came out, Moon of the Turning Leaves. Won't be reading that, but if nothing else, I'm glad I read another Indigenous author. Moving on. What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, and then Delicious Monsters. Okay, would absolutely reread As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. I gave that 5 stars. Oh, I gave Moon of the Crusted Snow 2 stars, by the way. I think I did forget to say that. So, okay. As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow was 5 stars. The audiobook, 5 stars. I just said that I'm not an audiobook girly per se, but that audiobook had me immersed. The narrator was pretty much crying. Like, you could hear every emotion in the inflection of her voice. You can hear the passion, all the characters' feelings you can hear in that narrator's voice. Like, that narrator needs a raise. This takes place during the Syrian Revolution. It's a war book. It's heartbreaking. It's devastating in so many ways. This 18-year-old, she basically has to like take care of her whole family. She has to up her medical skills. She's like in school to be a doctor, but she had to like expedite that process because they were short-staffed. So she had to learn surgical things. There are a lot of characters we meet, and then there's a twist. It's like kind of magical realism, kind of. Not really. Forget I said that. It's more like psychological. I don't know, but there's a twist that I was not expecting, but that's all I'm gonna say about that. So I highly recommend. I definitely want to get a physical copy for my shelves because I will reread that at some point because I want to annotate. I want to highlight. Would reread that. Would rewrite Delicious Monsters, take out Brittany's POV, and then would burn What Feasts at Night, which was one of my most anticipated of this year because I loved What Moves the Dead. But I think What Moves the Dead should have stayed a standalone. I don't think this was necessary. I gave this 3 stars still because the writing is still impeccable. T. Kingfisher is just everything. But this book particularly was not. It just focused a lot on this one specific piece of lore. Wasn't a fan of that. I liked that the first one was like a reimagining of the fall of the House of Usher, and then this was trying to do that with this like Celtic myth. I liked that we were back in this world, this place called Galatia, and they have like their own pronouns and everything. There's a lot of talk about pronouns in this. There were definitely things that I appreciated, but there were also things to be desired because this was disappointing. But again, it was on my 24 for 2024, so I was able to check that off, so that was satisfying. Okay, next 3. I love how Cheeto's just asleep right now. Very convenient. We've got The Marionettes by Katie Wismer, The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag, which is a graphic novel I got from the library, and then The Final Strife. I would reread The Girl from the Sea. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It was in the middle grade section, and it was a sapphic romance. It had a really good story though. There was this like siren seals were involved, and I loved the ending. There was like a little reveal. I actually almost cried when certain characters said goodbye to each other, but by the end, it was good. It was a happy ending. I would reread that because it was quick. It was a graphic novel. The art style was cute. The whole thing was cute. The romance was cute. I would rewrite this, honestly, make it shorter, take out the trials maybe, because it really is about the class system, and I would have just liked to learn about the magic and the character's backstory. So yeah. And then I would burn the marionettes because we've already talked about it. There's a sharp part in this skull that always pokes me every time I film these videos. Okay, the next three. Mourned by Men by Katie Friendries. To be Devoured by Sarah Tantlinger. Tokyo Ghoul Volume 9. Okay, right off the bat, I would burn Tokyo Ghoul Volume 9. I actually DNF'd that series after this volume. I checked out Volume 10 and I was like, I really don't feel like reading this anymore. So I did ask for suggestions for manga series that I should pick up on Instagram, and a lot of people said PTSD Radio, which I was surprised. I'll probably try to check that one out. I do have the omnibus for Death Note, but only one person said that, surprisingly. And of course, Gavin said One Piece. I will be looking back at that list, but if you have any more suggestions for manga series that I should tackle, I know Blood on the Tracks and Happiness are very popular right now as well. I've read The Girl from the Other Side completely. Spy Family, I DNF, and then I've read Monster, all volumes of the Monster series, and then all of Junji Ito I've also read. So there's that to give you an idea of what I've read. But anyway, would burn that. I don't care. I would reread To Be Devoured. Absolutely love this. This is one of the best horror novellas I've ever read. Best pieces of horror I've ever read, I think. This was 5 stars. This was a contender for best book of the month, but I feel like it should have been longer, and that's why I chose Natural Beauty as my best book. Plus, you know, an Asian author, I was able to relate more with that. Another sapphic romance. There's a lot more romance in this than I thought, so it talks about toxicities of a relationship, subtle things that lead to a downfall of a relationship. Vultures. There are a lot of vultures in this. Basically, this main character is obsessed with the thought of what carrion meat would taste like, so do with that information what you will. The writing is also stunning. And then Mourned by Men, I would rewrite. This was the book that was bought for me by my coworker, whose friend's daughter wrote this, and she wanted me to review it. So I said, yeah, sure. Signed and everything. I've been trying to get into Greek mythology retellings more. This follows Penthesilea. We call her Pen in this household. No, they call her Pen in the book too, but it follows her and like kind of her sister too. I gave this 4 stars, surprisingly, but I just loved that Pen never changed her mind about not wanting children and not following what her sister wanted for her life. So that's what really gave it that 4th star for me. But I would rewrite it so that she never feels guilty about it. There were moments where she was like, why don't I desire these things? What is wrong with me? Why don't I want to be a mother? Things like that. And I'm just like, please stop. Just embrace it. So yeah, I would rewrite that in that sense. Next 3 we have Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang, That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming, and Patience and Esther. S.W. Searle, I think is the author's name. I think I would burn Patience and Esther. I read it once. It's a graphic novel. Got it from the library. I read it for my Lara readathon as well. I gave it 3 stars. Steamiest graphic novel I've ever read. I just didn't like that. It had a lot of like history. Like it was so wordy for no reason. It just told me history that I don't care about. Like I was there for the romance and the Edwardian setting, but like we were in those steamy scenes, okay? Like we saw everything. Boobage, other parts, we were there. We were up close and personal, my dudes, which I didn't mind. I thought it was like bold of that illustrator to do. I enjoyed those parts. Again, I was there for the romance, but I gave it 3 stars. I would burn that. I would reread this. Love the twist. I finished this in my Jante's Inferno. I actually started this like January 1st, but I finished it for Jante's Inferno, so you could see my reactions to the twist. Obviously no spoilers, but it's in my Jante's Inferno vlog. And then I would rewrite That Time I Got Drunk and Saved the Demon. I really love this one. I gave it 4 stars. I surprisingly had so much fun with it. I thought it was going to be more cringy than fun, but I bought the first and the second at the same time despite those thoughts, so I don't know what's wrong with me. But I love the humor. I loved the coziness. If you like Legends and lattes but want like some steam, I would recommend this. There was actually a fantasy plot that I tried to pay attention to, but I really really was just there for the romance once again. It was really cute. There were just some cringy moments that I would rewrite. Not that I would, because how much better could I make it? Probably not much. But there were some cringy parts in those sex scenes that I did not appreciate. But I loved the friendships in this. Different characters. Our main character's name is Cinnamon. I loved the demon. I loved their banter. I loved how she got in her feels about like feeling like she was boring and how he just like reassured her. I loved it. It was cute. Highly recommend. I will be reading the sequel and I just bought the third one that came out yesterday. Okay, almost done. Not really. We have Hide by Kirsten White, Between the World and Me, and then The Happy Couple. I would burn this, obviously. Reread Between the World and Me, and then I would rewrite The Happy Couple. I guess there were some dull moments. I think there was an annoying character, but I think it was like that type of unlikable that I didn't mind. There were some parts that could have been a little less dry, I think, where I might have zoned out during the audiobook, but I really liked the ending. I wouldn't change the ending at all. I wouldn't change the two characters. I feel like I didn't get much of their personality though. I feel like I got them as a couple, but individually, I feel like I don't know anything about them. So let's do that. Let's flesh out the two main characters more. That was easy. We have Mistletoe by Kimberly Lemming, which is the novella that you're technically supposed to read after the first one. Yerba Buena, and Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. I think I would reread Just Like Home. I really enjoyed this. I read this for the Kayla vlog, so again, all my thoughts will be down there, but I gave it a 4. Basically, my main takeaway was that if you're gonna read this, don't take it too seriously. It's a haunted house book with a twist, and I did say different comparisons, like if you like this, read this. So those are all in the Kayla vlog once again, but I surprisingly really enjoyed this. I've had this for a while. I love this cover, so I'm glad I liked it. And there's like a toxic relationship between the mom and the daughter, just like some lengths that parents would go. There's that theme. Once you figure out what's going on, you just have to kind of just roll with it. Don't expect too much. I gave it a 4. I guess my expectations weren't that high in the first place. That's why I enjoyed it a lot. And then I would rewrite, what's the other one? Mistletoe? I think I would rewrite Mistletoe to make it a full-blown novel. I know that's a cop-out answer, but we're rolling with it. It was so short of an audiobook. It was like 2 hours, and I really didn't get much out of it because it was just like all romance, but I wanted more of a little bit of a plot and to get to know the characters more. So that, and then I would burn this because I didn't like it. But I gave Mistletoe 3 stars. Next, 3, River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey. I forgot I read 2 by that author this month. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm sorry, I'm doing this off the top of my head. And then Charisma's Turn, and I have no idea what the author's name was. I read this on Hoopla on my phone. It's a graphic novel. Okay, I would, fuck, this is an awful batch. Shit. Okay, I would reread Charisma's Turn because that's easy peasy. It's a graphic novel. I just wish it were longer, honestly. I know I didn't say rewrite, but I wish it were longer. I wish we saw how this girl's school project turned out because it was an important topic that she was trying to tackle. But it's about feeling empowered and believing in yourself despite what other people say, and just having that one person who believes in you and rolling with it and doing something with that faith, I guess. I gave Charisma's Turn 4 stars. Never Let Me Go, I'd probably rewrite just to fix the pacing because it was so slow, and then the reveal happened and then it was just so fast and everything was just in that last like 30 pages, and then there was like the aftermath or whatever. But I liked the twist. I liked the culty vibes. I kind of wish I read it physically, but also I'm glad I had the audiobook because it was really slow. Yeah, the pacing was just weird. It was one of those with kind of like the villain monologue thing, but it was done better than other monologues I've read where the reveals are revealed. Fuck, I can't think of words. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten today yet. I gave Never Let Me Go 3 stars. Also read it in the Kayla vlog, so thoughts will be over there in the link down below. And then I would burn River of Teeth. I liked the hippos. I stayed for the hippos. I read it audibly. I think I followed along at the end, the last like 20-ish pages. I don't remember. But it's super short of a book. It's a series. I think it's a trilogy. This is just not my type of book, like the adventure, history. I mean, I like historical fiction, but this was like adventure, almost Western type of vibes. But the people rode hippos, like massive, dangerous hippos. And I gave River of Teeth 2 stars. And I think I read it for my Lair Readathon as well. Ooh. Oh, I don't have it with me. Oh my god, hold on. Oh my god, I literally can't walk. I don't have the rug here. I rolled it up since Cheeto got here, just in case he pees. first couple weeks. My butt hurts, my legs hurt, and walking up to get this was a pain. But I reread A Dowry of Blood for the 5th time, but this was my first time listening to it as opposed to reading it physically. But of course it was still 5 stars. So we already know that one's a reread. White Horse by Erica T. Worth. Already know that one's a burn. Sorry, this is not how I was supposed to do this. And then Animal by Lisa Taddeo. Okay, that actually works really well because, yeah, reread this, burn White Horse, and then rewrite Animal. There was my least favorite trope, my most hated trope, which is pregnancy, unexpected pregnancy. Hated it, that's all. Otherwise, it was a great book. I gave it 4 stars. This was my full moon book club pick for February, so I will link my live show down below if you were interested. It was a really fun, somewhat productive discussion with one of my fellow vamps on Patreon, Sash, and one of my longtime friends here on BookTube. Sash from Sash Reads, and then one of my other vamps joined us spontaneously, Brienne. If you like the unhinged woman story, you should read this. It's that like messy lit fic where this woman is just navigating her life because she just doesn't know what she's doing, and she's trying to find this woman Alice, and then you find out why. There was a coyote scene that will remain in my brain for a long time. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Y'all can watch the live show if you want spoilery thoughts before or after you read it. Okay, I didn't even talk about A Dowry of Blood, but I talk about this constantly. Polyamorous vampires, reimagining of Dracula's brides, beautiful writing. It's told in vignettes and like poetic prose. It's gorgeous. It's my favorite book of all time, and I don't think anything will top this for many years, if not ever. Last 2. Look at that. That was pretty quick. So these are going to be wild cards, and they could be either reread, rewrite, or burn. They could both be rewrite. I don't care. Okay, so I have Fights by, I forgot the author's name, but it's a graphic memoir that I read because one of the librarians was having a discussion for it, and I wanted to know. I just wanted to be in the know. It was a graphic memoir, so another nonfiction book. Oh, that I didn't put on my recap. But I gave Fights 5 stars, and then A Tempest of Tea I gave 4 stars. I would reread this for fucking sure. Loved it. I have very fond memories of this book. I would absolutely reread this. I just contemplated whether I should have given it a 5 star, but no. Hopefully We Hunt the Flame is better for me though. And then Fights, I think I would reread as well. I mean, I'm not gonna rewrite someone's life. It was basically about this guy who got bullied all throughout his life, and then he learned how to fight. And that's why it's called Fights. He learned what violence meant and what violence could get him, and then he had to figure out how to deal with that and cope with things in a healthier manner that didn't involve violence. That was an intense book. I would recommend it if you're looking for a graphic memoir. That's all. You know what? We're not even gonna go off of books vibes. If you made it to the end of this video, put any type of food emoji because I'm about to eat anything. Any type of food emoji for me to end. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you agree, disagree, whatever. Talk to me in the comments. I will reply, I promise. Hope you had a vampy day. Don't forget to do some self-care, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!